So let's talk about due diligence. And since this is the time of Nobel Prize announcements, let's have some fun and talk about our favorite Nobel Prize winner, Albert Einstein. So let's say you're an entrepreneur and you're sitting in your office and you're so happy that you just put on the market a mousetrap. And Albert comes in the door and says, I know exactly what you need to improve your mousetrap, and that's the theory of relativity. This is where most people failed to do their due diligence. They simply heard about it on a tweet or a press release. But the fact is, Albert Einstein standing in front of you, he's a Nobel Prize winner, and you just simply say, well, that's good enough for me. That's not good enough for you. That's not doing due diligence. Because if you did your due diligence, you would know that Albert Einstein didn't get the Nobel Prize for the theory of relativity. Nobody did. He got it for something else called the photoelectric effect. The great thing about the city of Göttingen is that it not only commemorates the living, but it also honors the dead. In fact, to my side is this great little corner, this circle of Nobel Prize winners. 8 of them are buried here. David Hilbert is buried here. He should be. David Hilbert is now recognized as the co-discoverer of the general theory of relativity, first pioneered by Albert Einstein. They were fierce competitors. But Albert Einstein came to Göttingen in June 1915 to give a series of lectures and many discussions with David Hilbert. He had come from Berlin. He was working on his own disruptive technology. He was going to reshape how we thought about gravity. But Einstein had a problem. He was short a couple of equations before he could really present it in November of that year. And so he knew that there was only one person on the planet who could help him, and he was the famous mathematician David Hilbert. Einstein knew that Hilbert had that last equation, and in fact Hilbert was very close to finishing the general theory of relativity. And Hilbert decided that we'll publish it separately. If you can come up with it, that's fine. I do plan to refine it, and I will in fact publish it. And as the legend goes, and it's purely legend, and I'd love to find evidence of it, but it makes a good story, is that through this heated discussion, Einstein figured out what that last equation was. Whether it's true or not, the evidence we know is today it's known as the Einstein-Hilbert theory of general relativity. David Hilbert, independent of Albert Einstein's approach, came up with the same conclusion of a general theory of relativity. So by doing your due diligence in this fun example, you might find out that while Albert, not a fashion expert, but clearly a genius when it comes to physics, did not have the better technology that you needed to in-license, it may have been a mathematical approach. You know, this 45-year quest I've been on has been difficult. It's been difficult because even though we have always followed the scientific method, it didn't always receive the kind of response I wanted. It was always difficult because if it's disruptive, by definition, it's ahead of the curve. And therefore, there really aren't any experts that can do the due diligence on it. And what's really disappointing is that all the money is now flowing to new criteria. The criteria now to get tens of millions, probably even up to $1 billion, to do the things that we're doing right now without a business plan, without a science plan, without a development plan, is you just have to do 2 things. You got to dress like Steve Jobs, and you got to give a TED Talk.
Elizabeth Holmes created a company to make blood tests more convenient and more affordable. In the process, she became a multi-billionaire. But now there are new questions about the accuracy of those tests.
The young billionaire Elizabeth Holmes and her healthcare company now under a federal criminal investigation.
Theranos founder Elizabeth Holmes on trial for allegedly knowing her company's blood testing machines did not work, even while she raised money from investors and let the public get tested by the machines.
It's an idea that would be fantastic if you could do it. There wasn't a shred of evidence. In fact, it was nothing but fraud. And so the due diligence process came in when she tried to then market it. So while she was able to con the Silicon Valley venture capitalists, she was not able to con the body of scientists that govern these types of products. And that's the American Association of Clinical Chemistry. So from this example of the Theranos fraud, what we learned was that people invested in the Theranos idea and model because it was first, not because it was right. We have to deflect away from the first person that knocks on our door and says, I've got an idea to build your mousetrap even better. We have to stop at that point, and we have to follow the rigors of the scientific method. First does not mean right. And so with this now time where information is instantaneous. Why? Because of the city of Göttingen created the telegraph. And now the telegraph, which in 1833 only went a kilometer, now you can go everywhere in the world in nanoseconds. And here's the problem. People love to believe in what they believe. And when you have somebody tweet or Instagram or Facebook post a piece of unvetted information, it goes viral. And people use it as a reference. It's not a reference. It's somebody's idea that was posted on social media. It was not put through the rigors of the scientific method. And therefore we have danger that's been associated with it. We see ideologues coming out of nowhere that cite unreferenced material. And people use that to govern themselves with and to form policies on, again, on unvetted documents and statements. We can't allow this to happen. We have to stay on track and use the system of hypothesizing, testing, communicating, having somebody else repeat our results. Then you should communicate the results because it's gone through the vetting process. We have to get back on track because the danger of going down this road will be catastrophic.